As we travel through the land of shadow, we're surrounded by death. One of the earliest enemies we can encounter are the translucent inhabitants of this land, that must have already succumbed to a form of death, if they're nothing more than wandering spirits. But death does not only express itself through the foes we face. Across the plains hidden behind Marika's Veil, there are innumerable gravestones, some made of stone, and others that are spectral in nature. These spirit graves can be found all along Shadow Altus, and are defended by fearsome birds that bear more than a passing resemblance to a certain faction, which served a long-forgotten deity. Today we are discussing the Gravebirds, and their mission to defend the dead of the Land of Shadow, as they indulge in their eternal sleep. Speaking of sleep, while I'm sure none of us can possibly rest as well as those beneath the spirit graves, there is a way to sleep more soundly through the night, with the sponsor of this week's video, Manta Sleep. Manta Sleep offers a wide variety of comfortable, premium-feeling masks that will help you get a better night's sleep. From sound masks that have razor-thin Bluetooth headphones built in, to my personal favorite, the weighted sleep mask, which provides a calming pressure around your face. You can choose from a variety of options to help you get the sleep you need. Every one of their masks creates a comfortable 100% blackout while wearing them, so your sleep won't be disturbed by things like light pollution or a poorly placed window. You can join the pro-nap movement, get a better night's sleep, and feel energized for another day, with the help of Manta Sleep. All you need to do is visit their website using the link in the description, and use our promo code STG10 for 10% off your purchase when you order. Thanks again to Manta Sleep for sponsoring the channel. And with that said, let's discuss these defenders of eternal rest. The Gravebirds are found throughout the Land of Shadow, and you're likely to encounter them for the first time in the Bellarat Tower settlement. These particular enemies have been known to us since the first gameplay trailer for Shadow of the Erdtree, and look to be mini Deathbirds, with significantly larger beaks. Their wild attack patterns can be hard to predict, and they're able to assail us with spectral rings of white light in order to strike from a distance. Interestingly, while they don't utilize any kind of death sorcery, they can spew ghost flame from their mouths. If you're paying close attention, you'll notice in the details of their form that they have intricate stonework along their bodies. Any piece of the Gravebird's armor will explain the meaning behind this detail. Stone armor with a tinge of green, one of a set of armor pieces cast in the image of the Gravebird. Gravebirds are ancient golems, created to guard the spirit graves, built where all manners of death ultimately drift. The Gravebirds are not living creatures themselves. Much like the stone golems, they're automatons, brought to life in the Land of Shadow to serve a specific purpose: the defense of spirit graves. Across the Land of Shadow, we have the opportunity to find spirit grave stones. These items are described as a piece of gravestone that has started to turn into a spirit, mainly found on the gravesite plane. In places to where the dead have been brought since antiquity, the oldest gravestones turn into spirits and then fade away. These spirit graves defended by the Gravebirds were once actual headstones, and over time, the spirits of those buried below them entangle themselves in their stone, making them fade slowly from existence. It seems as though it was the Gravebird's job to stay with these stones until they faded, lest someone disturb their rest. I think these automatons were needed because the headstones do hold some form of power before they start to fade, as the spirit gravestones we can find are actually used to create other items. The Polterstone, Sunwarmth Stone, and a bit of Surging Frenzied Flame can all be crafted from the spirit-infused rock. And I believe those that used these spirits for their own ends were likely seen as heretics by the Hornset, who revered spirits in their religion. This means the Gravebirds were created for the express purpose of driving off these spirit poachers, and punishing those that would defy Hornset traditions by disturbing these graves. When it comes to their appearance, the Gravebird ashes tell the story. Ashen remains in which spirits yet dwell, used to summon the spirit of a Gravebird, the spirit of an old golem and spirit grave keeper, who flies with stone wings and spouts ghost flame. According to legend, the Gravebirds were crafted to be kindred to the Deathbirds. It's rather straightforward. The crafters of these golems clearly revered the strength of the Deathbirds, and saw their creation as a way of helping these creatures conduct their rituals with the dead. I think calling them kindred is an important distinction to make, because that means they weren't meant to be mere servants, but more like family or copies of the ghost birds. Perhaps, if we subscribe to the theory of the horn set being tied to their creation, these golems were meant to be an evolution of the ghost birds. Their death rituals involved burning the dead, spirits and all, in ghost flame to complete their cycle. But the Gravebirds would defend the dead from any that would disturb their spirits. Similar purpose with a different agenda. If you're brave enough to dive headfirst into the nests of these creatures, you can actually find pieces of the Gravebird armor set, which gives you the appearance of a Gravebird draped in the feathers of their kin, the Deathbirds. This armor doesn't tell us much we don't already know at this point, but the fact that it exists is interesting to me. It's clearly unique, as no one else we encounter in the Land of Shadow wears this set. And it makes me wonder if it perhaps belonged to the person responsible for the creation of the Gravebirds. Why else would each piece of armor be found at the various locations where Gravebirds congregate? Now, each piece is found on a corpse, so that could work against this theory. However, the fact that each corpse only has one piece could also mean the armor was delivered to these locations on purpose, perhaps on someone's orders, or maybe as a final show of respect after the passing of the Gravebird's creator. It's equally possible that these bodies where we find the armor once held full sets, and these are the keepers of the spirit graves mentioned in various item descriptions. If this is the case, then these people would have essentially controlled the Gravebirds, and upon their passing, the golems simply continued to follow their commands, protecting the spirit graves of the Land of Shadow. Either way, I believe the locations of these armor pieces are intentional, and help tell a story we don't have all the pieces to. There is a sorcery that the Gravebirds have access to that may seem familiar if you gathered incantations during Elden Ring's base campaign. The Rings of Spectral Light are a sorcery practiced by the keepers of the spirit graves, where all death ultimately drifts. Creates rings of spectral light that fire in unison. The rings of light have the same qualities as Ghost Flame, and deal magic damage while also causing frost buildup. The name, Rings of Spectral Light, is likely to make you think of Radagon's Rings of Light, the Triple Rings of Light, or the Discus of Light. Knowing that two of these incantations were actually created by Miquella as gifts for his father, leads me to believe that Miquella has always had more knowledge of the Land of Shadow than others, and may have even been using that knowledge to help him develop his own plans. These Rings of Spectral Light come from an old order, that of the Gravebirds, as they strike with the same qualities of Ghost Flame. So perhaps this skill they learned by mimicking their kindred was itself mimicked by the Golden Order. It wouldn't be the first time they found something of use in heresy, and bent it to their own ideals. The Gravebirds exist for the singular purpose of defending the dead, and from what we see in the Land of Shadow, it seems they're quite proficient in their job. The gravesite plain, as well as various other areas of this land, are brimming with ghostly gravestones, meaning that those who would use them to their own ends have been fended off for an untold number of years. While the Gravebirds are nothing more than stone, machinery shaped in the form of death itself, they are formidable opponents that can use their numbers against any who would disturb the rest of those spirits that have found themselves bound to their gravestone. In my eyes, this makes them an enemy that shouldn't be put to the blade as we ride by them. They serve a noble purpose in a world where so many have forgotten what nobility means, and we should leave them to their never-ending work. Thank you for joining me as I broke down what little we know about the Gravebirds, the protectors of spirits across the Land of Shadow. What did you think of my thoughts and theories? Who is the mysterious creator of the Gravebirds, and were they the same driving force behind other golems in Elden Ring? Are the corpses we find the Gravebird armor set on thieves or acolytes? Why do those buried beneath gravestones in the Land of Shadow see their spirits intertwined with stone? Let me know your theories in the comments. Watch that button below light up as I say like this video. And if you think we've earned it, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification so you never miss out on our weekly lore dives. We'll look forward to seeing you again for more Elden Lore.